How's it going, YouTube? Got FourthStarTCG here, and today I'd like to talk about the future of grading Pokemon cards. I want to split this into two different types of topics. The first being the future of the actual process of getting your cards graded, and the second being the future of the graded card market and what changes to that process are going to lead to in the graded card market. So first, let's get into the changes with the actual process. I have my giant stacks of to-be graded cards here. I got all my newer cards. I even got some XY stuff, all of the stuff I've decided is, worthy to be graded in its current condition and with the current prices. I have a lot of cards that may be in mint condition that I'm not grading because, they aren't, the calculus doesn't work out. But I've got a ton of cards that are ready to be graded. Of course, I grade most of my cards through PSA, so the shutdown is affecting me. But with CGC and other grading companies coming along, BGS as well, I think people have been spreading out a little bit, especially with PSA being shut down. There's been a lot of discussion about, okay, are things going to go back to normal? And I'm here to tell you that they are not going to go back to normal. They might go, turnaround times might improve slightly from where they are right now. The communication from grading companies might get better, but I am here to tell you right now that the changes that we have been seeing in the graded card process are here to stay. Higher prices are here to stay. I really don't think you're going to be seeing any reputable grading company, and when I say reputable, I mean like PSA, CGC, BGS, maybe you can even put like SGC in there. Obviously you can send your card off to any random dude on the internet who says he's a grading company for $5 and he'll slap a 10 on your card and there you go. But a grading company that's actually respected in the market and is going to raise the value of your card, we're probably not going to see prices under $10, $15 ever again. PSA value, it would not surprise me if that goes up again to maybe $25 a card upon the resumption of services. That would not surprise me. CGC has just raised their prices again. They're more in line with PSA now in terms of especially the lower service levels. CGC's higher service levels are just above and beyond cheaper than PSA's. But CGC has definitely lined up their bulk service level with subgrades. You're paying close to $20 a card plus. Now I think I paid $20 a card, or I think maybe $17.5 when I did my recent CGC submission before they raised prices. But you're definitely paying over $20 a card for bulk with subgrades now from CGC. So those prices are here to. I really don't think that in the future we're going to see grading companies decreasing prices unless there's some ridiculous demand decrease. But as we've seen with PSA, after PSA raised the prices, people still flooded them with submissions. They didn't shut down right after they raised the prices. It took a month for them to shut down, and that was it was people sending in before the prices rose. That was a big part of it, but also it was people still sending in after the prices rose. The price rise really didn't do too much to stifle demand, especially in the lower value submissions. So I don't think the prices are going to change. I also don't think the turnaround times are going to significantly improve. Obviously, I don't think that year-long turnaround times will be the sort of the norm, but we're not going to be going back to 4 to 5 months to get your cards back in bulk from PSA. It would very much surprise me if we ever got below 8 to 10 months for PSA bulk or value or whatever. Right now, I sent off a submission last May and it was registered last July. And I'm still I haven't seen that submission yet, and it's still in, I think it's still in assembly phase. So it is submissions that were submitted that like people packaged up and sent off over a year ago, they're still not back. And that was just at the beginning of this avalanche of graded card submissions. Like if you submitted in March, it would not surprise, in March of this year, it would not surprise me if it took, over a year from the date of registration, not the date of you shipping it out, to get your cards back. And maybe a year and a half, I think, would be an adequate time frame to be looking at for those cards to come back. I think it's going to come down. I definitely think, with the price increases, there's going to be a decrease in demand. PSA is going to scale up. This sort of idea of, well, why doesn't PSA just scale is kind of a joke, but they will slowly and surely scale up to be able to meet the increases in demand. And they're going to be able to get cards back a little bit quicker, but we're never going back to 4 to 5 months for PSA bulk. If you want your cards back quickly, you're going to have to pay for it, and you're going to have to use those higher service tiers. So that's those are the main two areas that I wanted to highlight. This idea that prices and turnaround times are not going to go back to normal. And I think a lot of people are kind of waiting. They've got a bunch of cards and they say, you know what, the grading is too hectic right now. I'm not going to do it. And if you're doing that because like you don't want your cards away for so long, like the grading doesn't really matter to you at this point, you've changed your collection goals, that's fine. I'm obviously not telling you what to do with your cards, but if you are eventually going to get them graded and you're thinking that, oh, if I wait a little bit, the turnaround times are going to come down, the prices might go down, the congestion, I'll get my cards back quicker. That's not going to work. If you have cards that you want to, and I've sort of learned this throughout my many years in the hobby, is that if you're a graded card collector like I am, it's much better that your cards, like the stacks of cards that you have, are sitting on a shelf at PSA, accumulating turnaround time and in some very small way being worked upon, than they are just sitting on your desk at home. Like for me, I need graded cards to advance my collection goals. My goals are graded sets. So having those cards off at PSA is, important to me. And if it takes a very long time, but just having these cards sitting on my desk, that's not making any progress towards my collection goals. So that's why, even in the midst of all of this craziness, I've been sending off cards to PSA fairly consistently. And again, eventually I'll get those cards back. It's going to be a very long time, but eventually I will. So yeah, turnaround time's not going to change. Hopefully they'll get better, but don't think that they're getting back to normal. Don't think that by waiting, you'll somehow get a better deal or a better turnaround time. Your cards are still going to be off for a very, very long time. And once you get up to like 10 months, what's the difference between like 10 months and 14 months? Like, not that long or not that serious in my opinion. But, when we talk about these sort of structural changes to grading cards, that also means that the graded card market is going to change as well. So what's going to happen there? Now, obviously, I'm not going to give a sort of moon or doom prediction where, all graded cards will crash or all graded cards will continue to stonk incredibly like we've seen over the past year. If anyone's telling you that, don't listen to them. If they're saying, if they're giving you a one way or the other prediction, just they don't know what they're talking about, because nobody ever knows with 100% certainty what's going to happen. People can think they know what's going to happen, but be very careful with the people who tell you with certainty. Now, what I can say with certainty is that this is going to change the dynamics of the graded card market. So, for example, the higher prices on PSA cards, graded cards in general, the higher cost is going to drive up costs as well. It's going to be more difficult to buy from people who, do Pokemon as, the big dealers. They are not going to lower their prices. They're going to keep prices high because that's what they need to do in order to pay off the doubling of grading prices. So, finding low value graded cards is not going to be, or is going to be pretty difficult. Like if you're looking for a graded card under $30 now, that's probably not going to be, that's not going to happen. I remember back in 2018, 2019, you could get graded cards for less than $25. I was buying PSA 10s for less than $25. That's never going to happen again. Even if the market sort of like crashes, like people say, there's still going to be that floor where people are not going to sell for less than cost, basically. Unless they did something, really stupid and sent in a crease, like Sun and Moon Trubbish or something, and cards that like deserve to be graded, you're never like, and the people who grade these cards, they're not going to sell them for low values. So the floor for graded cards is pushed up. And that, I think graded card prices in general, compared to sort of, this is kind of difficult because changes in the market will obscure changes in graded card prices. But just like in the past, finding steals on graded cards, graded cards, graded 10s for less than $50, graded 9s for less than 20, stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be a lot harder because people have that floor cost has increased now. I think it might have a slight effect on graded card prices in the sort of longer term. But again, most graded cards, especially now, most 10s, most, the stuff that people are sending in. Let's see, what have I got here? I got like some Pikachus, some Dream League Pikachus, Dream League Mimikyu and stuff. These are modern cards. Even so, they're probably like maybe $100 for the Mimikyu. In a PSA 10, maybe $150, $175 for the Pikachu. Like when you get up to that kind of value with the stuff people are sending in, it really, like an extra $10, like the value goes, if people sort of lump the cost in, an extra $10, $175 to $185, $100 to $110. It's really not, minimal, less than 10% increase in value. Which in the grand scheme of things for Pokemon, not that serious. So the impact on floor prices for graded cards is there, but the other impact, and this is sort of the most important thing that I feel, is the impact that the increased turnaround times are going to have. And we've sort of seen this already in the market. And it's the ability for people with cards, with ungraded cards, to respond to market movement and to increase supply. So for example, let me find a card that not a lot of people have graded. All right, let's go through here. Perfect example. So I have a bunch of these Japanese Secret Wonders Gardevoir Hollows, and I think these cards are beautiful. I love them. I have a lot of them in mint condition. I got 3 of them in this stack. I got more in some other stacks. I think I already sent off 1 to be graded, right? And I feel like a lot of people, that's not an expensive card. A lot of people might just have it stuck away in their Japanese Diamond and Pearl bulk boxes because it's been, nobody's graded that card. Let's say someone pays $500 for a PSA 10 of that card. Again, just hypothetically. I've got a bunch of them right here ready to go, but I haven't really had any motivation to grade because they're not worth it at the current price point. And let's say, there's only a few out there graded right now. So if someone pays $500 for that card and people start to realize and the market value changes, and let's say the market value for that card is now, maybe $400. It goes down a little bit when some other people say, hey, that's expensive, and then they sell. And the market value for that card settles at maybe $350 to $400. But because there have been so few, that the low population is driving up the prices. There's more demand than there is supply. So people who have the ungraded cards, they say, all right, it's time to submit these to PSA. So as soon as that market value settles and they're like, okay, this is a good thing to send in, they send off their cards to PSA. And then they wait for 10 months. And in that 10 months, there can be a lot of market movement and a lot of market solidification before you eventually get to that new supply. So in 10 months, everyone who did the same thing I did when they saw that, hypothetical $500 sale and the market value settling at, a couple $100 for this Japanese hollow Gardevoir that a lot of people just have lying around. That supply is going to come into the market, and if the demand isn't there to accept that supply, then the price is going to go down. But that's going to be a lot more delayed from what we would used to see in the past, where if something like that happened, within a few months, it would go down in price because there'd be more supply, people would submit, they'd get their cards back, and the market would be able to correct. But corrections in the market are going to take longer now, especially the sort of supply-driven corrections, as opposed to the demand-driven corrections. So people need to sort of be aware of that a little bit, especially on cards that may have a lot of supply out there. I'm definitely and people say this all the time, they say, okay, what is in the backlog, right? What is in that massive amount of cards that PSA has? Is it going to be your 2019 Dream League Pikachus? Or is it going to be your Gem Mint first edition base Charizards? I know which one I'm going to bet on. It's probably going to be a lot of these Pikachus. So if people are buying these Pikachus for a ton of money, they might sort of want to think about, okay, what's going to happen when that supply does come in? Is there going to be an opportunity to buy at a lower price because there's going to be a supply-driven correction? Older cards, rarer cards, your PSA 10 first edition base set, your trophy cards, there's no stack of mint condition 1997 #1 Pikachus in the back. It's just not happening. But modern cards, stuff like that, it's much more likely to be vulnerable to sort of these supply-driven corrections. So in the environment of close to a year plus turnaround times, people need to be wary of the supply-driven corrections that could happen, and the sort of sticking power of low supply, high demand cards. Because if you've got something that's, high demand for the time being and low supply, it might be a great time to sell that. So people need to be aware of this, and they need to be aware of how the dynamics of the market are going to change a little bit because of the increased prices and the increased turnaround times. So I hope this video made sense. I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like I've been going on a little bit, but I hope it all made sense. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe and stick around for more videos.